What's going on, everybody? I'm Kevin from Cigar Prop, and it is another Tabak and Tech Tip Sunday, powered by Monster Energy Rehab, and it is a chilly Sunday morning. All right, a couple of issues that have happened to me this past week or a week and a half. Leads me to my topic: when should you replace things in pairs versus replacing individual components? So when it comes to suspension components, everything is replaced in pairs. You replace shocks in pairs, struts in pairs, sway bar end links in pairs. And those are, because you will notice a difference. It can affect handling, performance, which can affect safety. You know, if you've got one blown out shock, you know, the car's got 95,000 miles on it, it's got a blown out shock, so can you replace just the one shock? I would prefer not to. There's nothing legally preventing me from selling you one shock, which we have done in the past. But it's gonna ride different. Same with struts. Struts are even more prevalent, especially if you got them on the, well, most people have the struts on the front. You know, one side's gonna be stiffer. When you're cornering, the handling is gonna be off a little bit. Sway bar end links, same thing. I see you need a replacement pairs. I said you do one, now it's nice and tight. The other one's gonna go out eventually, and usually pretty soon. And then you're back in and you're paying that all over again, which leads me to some things I've had. So if the job is difficult, sometimes you might not get presented with the option of replacing more than one component. I had a headlight, Buick something, whole bumper had to come off to do a headlight. Some technicians out there, some shops, do you want to do both headlights since you know we're in there, they were replaced at the same time? I don't know. I'm on the fence about that. Should you replace both headlights? If you got some miles on it, probably, maybe. You know, one's probably going to be a little brighter than the other one. Is it really a safety thing? Probably not. But on these, I would recommend replacing all the bulbs in that light assembly. Had one, I recommend that. Ma'am, there's no additional labor. The headlight's coming out, the bumper's coming off. You got 3 more bulbs in this headlight housing. It's gonna be like another 40 bucks, basically just charging you for the bulbs. And she said no. And I'm like, okay, not a problem. And it wasn't a couple days later, and a turn signal went out. And of course, ever since you replaced that headlight bulb, now my turn signal's not working. And I'm like, man, there's no like wire, it like snaps in. Like I said, it's got conductor, you know, it from the feel. It's hard to, you know, with when it snaps in, it makes contact. You know, I'm trying to remember, like I said, not everybody's a mechanic that watches these. So there's nothing we did. Obviously, took it out, bulb's bad. Well, took it out after I removed the bumper again and the headlight. That bumper pays 1.1 to R&R that bumper. She paid a lot of money for that turn signal bulb. I comped her 50%, but she was still a little irritated, which I understand. I made you that offer though. I made you that offer as a technician. I'm not trying to make more money. I try to explain to people that. The other one, brake calipers. I go above and beyond to try and recommend brake calipers in pairs, but I understand that some people, the money's tight and you can only do one brake caliper. I go out of my way to notate it on a ticket, and customer, I mean, and it really wasn't a money issue on this one. They just wanted the one replaced. It ended up being rotors on both sides, pads on both sides, one caliper. Rotors always replace in pair. I won't even give the customer an option on that. That ends up being, that always bites. You replace one, you're replacing them in pairs. You got to do pads in pairs. Got to do brake pads and rotors in pairs. Unless, like I said, we measure them, there are exceptions to that rule. But when you got 150,000 miles on the car, they're both super thin. I'm not putting a brand new one on and then one that needs to be cut or is already too far below to be machined to. It's neither here nor there. Recommended calipers, customer said no. And it was come back maybe a couple weeks, 3 or 4 weeks later, and that other caliper was hanging up. I warrantied out the brake pads. I had to machine the rotor several times because I got the rotor hot, but they started all over with that labor again. And it's just like, I could have saved you could have saved all of this money to begin with, but you chose not to. And like I said, I understand if it's a money issue, but sometimes I don't think technicians or sales associates will kind of inform the consumer about why we're recommending things in pairs. We have pretty good sales associates that work at my Tires Plus. I'm one of those technicians. I don't rely on the sales associates. I sell my own jobs because I feel that the customer, the boss, we call them the boss. They really are my boss. It's easier. I don't like to be sold to by a salesman either. I literally just bought a new truck a couple of days ago. I don't like salesmen. I like talking with technicians as well. I like talking with people that service the toaster, the blender, the TV, whatever it is. But yeah, so sometimes sales associates, salesmen, saleswomen can't get that point across of why you're buying things in pairs. I have seen technicians in the past, quotes come in, they're, recommending 2 bearings, and they should be replaced. Hub bearings should not be replaced in pairs. You can replace those one at a time. You don't want to replace wiper blades one at a time unless one is really new and something happened and you got to replace the one. What else is there? Tires. Tires really should be replaced in pairs unless you're replacing one tire with a tire of the same tire, at least on the same axle. You should have the same tread design, so one doesn't pull one way or the other. I've seen that before. So as long as the tires are the same brand or same tread on the front or the rear, you should be safe. But yeah, there are so many things on a car that should be replaced in pairs, and we're not trying to just upsell you. Now, with that being said, there are things as a consumer, if you've got a big job, like I just did a big job on my own, my Cadia before I got rid of it, was the thermostat. While I was in there, the coolant temp sensor sits right below that. I replaced that. I would recommend that to a customer as well. There are other technicians that might not recommend that. So if you're having a big job done somewhere, ask the technician, ask the sales associate, is there something like right there that like I should think about replacing since you're already digging in there? If you have a hub bearing going bad, maybe think about doing brakes at the same time. I got to disassemble the brakes. I've done that more than once. Hey, you're like at 4mm, 5mm. You're not dire for brakes, but this side is going to be free. I mean, I'm going to charge you for the parts, but there's no labor. I got to rip this stuff apart to replace that bearing. I can do the other side, and like I said, we'll do like a 50% labor thing, and people will jump right on that. So may want to think about asking if you're having a big job done, and it could be a couple $100 job, it could be $1,000 job. Is there something else that I could save money on doing by having it done now versus waiting, in the long term? So, but yeah, there are many things on a vehicle. Just rule of thumb, suspension and brakes, everything should always be done in pairs. So that's just not us, like I said, trying to sell you more components. That's us trying to keep you safe and then keeping you from coming back to see us, when that other component fails ever since yeah, it's keeping you safe. It's saving you money, in the short term and, well, saving money in the long term. So, all right, that's what we got for today, cats and kittens. We will see you back next Sunday for another Drew Estate Cigars Tabak and Tech Tip Sunday, powered by Monster Energy Rehab.